Welcome to the Making College Affordable podcast with me, Jason Fleury, certified financial planner professional and college planning specialist. I'm about to show you the inside secrets colleges don't want you to know and help you become a more educated consumer when it comes to paying for college. I believe you should enjoy the journey of allowing your kids to pursue their dreams without having to sacrifice yours. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you how to do. So let's get started. Hey, and welcome everyone to episode number 5 of the Making College Affordable podcast. I'm Jason Fleury, and I'm thrilled to be back to share with you more of the game-changing experiences and just uncover some of the insights that I've learned in the 20-plus years as a certified financial planner professional and college planning specialist. The topic that I have to share with you today is somewhat controversial, and it seems like school counselors especially are really divided on which way is the right way when it comes to balancing rigor and GPA. Now, what we're going to talk about today is which one gets you the best results when you're applying for college. Because it's no secret that college has become super competitive over the last 10 years or so. It's not enough to just have good grades and a strong SAT or ACT score anymore. Students have to have rigor to show the colleges that they've challenged themselves academically. But what if your student is struggling to manage the workload that they're under already? Or maybe you're unsure if you should sign him up for another AP class like your counselor is telling you. If that's your situation, then this episode is for you. See, I have people ask me all the time, should I take a regular on-level class and get an A, or should I take an AP class and get a B? Well, my answer is usually take the AP class and get an A, because that's the ideal outcome, right? And for many people, just buckling down a little bit and putting that extra little bit of effort and dedication in can make that possible. But what if your student is already struggling to get A's and B's, and you're all crippled by the thought of adding more weight to the load just because they have to in order to be competitive for college? Well, I understand that, and I think I may have a perspective that'll help put your mind at ease. Like pretty much everything else that I talk about related to admissions and scholarships, this process also starts with the end in mind and then works backwards. So let's recap that for a minute. If you haven't already done so, you want to think through what type of college is going to be the best fit for your student based on their key attributes like their major, the location of the college, the school size, things like that. If you want to get more information about that part of the process, go back and listen to episode number 1 where I went into that in a lot more detail. So once you have your list of attributes figured out, then you want to look at the common data set from each of those colleges so that you can see what characteristics are most important to them too. You can then match everything up, and once you've determined that you've got a fit on your end and you have a knowledge of what works on their end too, then you can analyze which piece of that whole prospect puzzle is most important for your student's success at each one of those colleges. In most cases, you're going to see columns identifying what the colleges consider most important, what they consider in the admission process, and what's not considered. Usually the academic qualifications are listed first, so look for those rows that show rigor and GPA. They're usually near the top. And it's pretty eye-opening to see what some of the colleges prefer in their ideal applicants. It's also wonderful information to have if you're trying to do your homework on which colleges to choose later. So here's what you're going to find. Some colleges value a good GPA and a strong SAT or ACT score over rigor. And in those cases, you want to do whatever you can to protect GPA rather than load up with extra rigor, especially if you feel that having that extra load would hurt your kid's overall GPA. If you see that rigor is in the most important category, well, then you have to carefully think through how to balance the rigor and the GPA for your kids, especially if GPA is also in the most important category. In my experience, I found that it's often easier to explain why students didn't overload themselves with a bunch of AP classes and dual enrollment classes than it is to explain why their GPA is really lower than it should be. And even when they can adequately explain the situation that held their GPA down, that explanation is not usually sufficient enough to override consideration for scholarships and other kinds of awards. They may still get into the college of their choice, but with no financial help in the mix, it may just be a lost cause. Colleges typically have a lot more flex on the rigor side when there are other time-consuming activities that are involved, like marching band or sports or dance. Caring for family members is something that colleges look at. If you've had a job or if you've done extensive community service, all of those things can help explain why you didn't overload yourself in the classroom. there's more ways than one to demonstrate rigor. And obviously, you want to show that you've challenged yourself as much as possible in everything that you've done. So take a look at the whole picture when you're trying to decide whether or not to add more academic rigor, and see if it's really needed to show that your student's a hard-working, well-accomplished person. You can use the same approach when you're deciding whether or not to join another club, or do more volunteer work, or maybe even to see if a summer job is beneficial in the grand scheme of things. If your college doesn't really rank those kind of activities very high in their process, then leave them alone. Focus on those areas that'll give you the most impact. I see counselors and colleges and even some other college planners encourage students to take as many AP courses as possible. You see in their presentations that the students who got into this college or that college last year had an average of X AP courses, so basically the message is pretty clear. If you want to get into that college or any kind of college that's similar to that, well, you got to do the same thing that they did to get there. I can see where that line of thinking is true at some of the more elite universities, but it's only one item in a list of many things that the colleges consider. To get the real picture, you have to zoom out. Then you can evaluate your needs and ability to add more rigor from there. That's much more in your best interest than making decisions based on some external pressure from somebody else. Also keep in mind that many colleges count honors courses as rigor too. It's not just AP and IB and dual enrollment courses. In fact, many of the smaller high schools and private schools, they don't offer that much in the way of AP courses anyway. So the options are limited for students in those situations. Whenever you can, at least try to take honors courses and then sprinkle in some AP classes and some dual enrollment classes to go with it. But always, always protect your GPA, no matter which route you take. In the situations that I deal with, 10 out of 10 times, I'd rather work with somebody who has a higher GPA than somebody that has a ton of rigor and a GPA that's more in the middle of the pack. The results are almost always better for those who have higher GPAs, and they can be significantly better if you're looking to go to out-of-state public universities because of the scholarships that they offer. I've had many situations where a student's GPA has helped them eliminate all of the out-of-state portion of the tuition at some of the best colleges in the country. Rigor wasn't even a factor in those scenarios. So by focusing on the thing that mattered most for their college situation, they got accepted and then richly rewarded for their efforts. On the other hand, I've also seen hundreds of situations where a student's GPA was just below the mark to qualify for a huge scholarship because of a few borderline grades that didn't go their way in some of their AP classes. The difference for them compared to the first students with the higher GPAs is astounding. Not only does it often influence where that student eventually gets to go to college, but in dollar terms, the amount of lost scholarships in situations like these can be between $60,000 and $100,000 over 4 years of college. Now do I have your attention? I agree with counselors and other planners who say that demonstrating rigor is important, but I still believe that having a high GPA is more important. To the best of your ability, get both of them as high as possible, but always err on the side of protecting your GPA whenever there's a conflict. It's a lot easier to make up opportunities than losses, and your kids just don't need the added pressure of trying to dig out of a hole academically when it was unnecessary for them to be there in the first place. And here's the thing, it's up to you to monitor this for your kids, so be vigilant and stay a step or two ahead of your counselor in this area. They're slammed with 1,000 other things to do, and it's too easy to let time slip away when you're busy too. But think about it. Wouldn't it be a shame for your kids to suffer needlessly in high school and then miss out on an opportunity of a lifetime because somebody wasn't paying attention to your individual needs? It happens all the time, but don't let it happen to you. You've got to look out for your own best interest, or find an experienced college planning specialist who can help you stay on track during this critical time in your family's life. With a little knowledge and the right approach, you can find the balance that you're looking for. And when you do, you'll be giving your kids a fighting chance to reach their goals and also enjoy their journey along the way. I hope you've enjoyed and benefited from today's show. If you like what you've heard, please give us a good rating wherever you get your podcasts and share us with your friends. Also, if you have any specific questions or comments about anything we've covered today, email those questions to podcast@mycollegeplanners.com. You can also visit our website at mycollegeplanners.com to get personalized recommendations on how to make college more affordable and learn how working with a college planning specialist can improve your life. Thanks again for listening today. I look forward to seeing you again soon.